I keep hearing Alzheimer's and dementia, but how do I know which one my father has? That's what a woman asked me last week, her voice trembling. She'd been watching her dad change, little by little. A memory loss here, a moment of confusion there. At first, the family thought it was just aging. But then, those dementia symptoms became harder to ignore. When you live with someone over 60, it's not just about noticing memory loss. It's about protecting their brain health before cognitive decline takes something away you can't get back. And the truth is, Alzheimer's disease and vascular dementia can look so alike at the start. Yet they have different dementia risk factors, and different paths to prevention. Across the U.S., I've met so many families stuck in this exact place. Worried. Searching online late at night for early diagnosis dementia or lifestyle to prevent dementia, but getting lost in a maze of medical terms. And if you've ever wondered how stroke and dementia risk can overlap, you're not alone. So today, I want to help you untangle that confusion, gently, clearly, in a way that helps you protect the person you love. Because when it comes to senior brain health, every day you wait is a day you might lose. Let's start by looking at the very first signs that matter most. When I meet families in my clinic, the first thing I tell them is this: early signs of Alzheimer's and dementia are like two rivers that look the same from a distance, but flow to very different places. With Alzheimer's disease, the earliest changes are often in memory. A senior might forget where they put their glasses. But not just once in a while, it's repeated, and they can't retrace their steps. They may ask the same question twice within minutes, or forget conversations entirely. The changes creep in slowly, and the brain's hippocampus, the memory center, is often the first area affected. Vascular dementia, on the other hand, is tied to circulation. The early symptoms might feel scattered, a brief stroke warning sign here, a moment of difficulty finding words there, sometimes paired with clumsiness in walking or using a hand. It's like the brain's blood flow has tiny traffic jams that affect thinking, movement, or mood in unpredictable ways. The challenge? In seniors over 60, these early dementia symptoms can overlap. And without a careful look, families might miss the moment when stroke prevention tips could actually stop further decline. That's why I always recommend keeping a simple journal of daily changes. Note when a symptom appears, how long it lasts, and whether it improves with rest or stays the same. Over weeks, a pattern often emerges, and that pattern can guide the right diagnosis and treatment. And once you start seeing those patterns, there's another step that can make all the difference: catching the silent clues before they grow louder. Let's talk about those next. In the early stages of dementia, the brain rarely sends an alarm bell. Instead, it whispers, and those whispers often hide in everyday moments. You might notice a senior with vascular dementia pausing mid-sentence, searching for a word they've used all their life. Or a loved one with Alzheimer's disease walking into a familiar room and looking around as if they're not sure why they came in. Sometimes the changes are emotional. A once patient grandfather grows irritable over small frustrations. A grandmother who loved company begins avoiding social gatherings, not because she doesn't care, but because memory loss makes conversation feel like climbing a steep hill. Other times, it's the rhythm of daily life that shifts. Bills go unpaid, the stove is left on a little too long, or the grocery list is missing the very items needed for dinner. These are not just senior moments, they're early dementia symptoms that signal the brain's executive function is struggling. Recognizing these patterns is not about labeling someone too early. It's about dementia prevention, about protecting senior brain health before cognitive decline becomes irreversible. The earlier you see these clues, the sooner you can look into risk factors like stroke and dementia, and take steps, lifestyle changes, medical checks, even addressing depression, that can slow the disease's progression. And here's something many families find surprising: sometimes, the first signs aren't about memory at all. they can start in the body. That's where we're going next. Before memory loss becomes obvious, the brain may already be sending signals through the body. In my years of working with seniors, I've seen early dementia symptoms appear as subtle physical changes. A man in his late 60s developed a slight shuffle in his walk, not because of arthritis, but because his brain's motor planning, the system that tells muscles what to do, was being disrupted. In another case, a woman who had never struggled with balance began bumping into door frames. Her family thought she was just clumsy, but the truth was her brain health was changing in ways they couldn't yet see. This is why early diagnosis of dementia can't rely on memory tests alone. Vascular dementia, Alzheimer's disease, and even dementia linked to stroke can all start with small coordination issues, slowed reaction times, or changes in handwriting that seem too small to matter. If your loved one starts dropping utensils more often, or finds it harder to button a shirt, these may be early clues. It's not about causing panic, it's about dementia prevention and protecting senior brain health before cognitive decline accelerates. By listening to the body, you give yourself a head start. And that head start can be the difference between years of independence and rapid loss of daily function. Next, let's look at why these early signals, whether in memory, mood, or movement, are often mistaken for something else entirely. It's human nature to explain away small changes. If a senior forgets a word, we blame stress. If they walk a little slower, we say it's just age catching up. But here's the truth: Alzheimer's disease, vascular dementia, and other forms of cognitive decline rarely announce themselves with a loud alarm. They slip quietly into everyday life, hiding behind what looks like normal aging. Families often tell me, "We didn't think it was dementia. She was still cooking, still driving, still remembering birthdays." That's the tricky part. Early dementia symptoms can exist alongside normal function for months or even years. Depression in seniors can also mask or mimic dementia. A lack of energy, reduced social activity, or trouble concentrating may be seen as just feeling low, when in fact, the brain health is changing. Stroke history plays a role too. Even a minor stroke can increase dementia risk, creating subtle issues with planning, decision-making, or multitasking that are often brushed off. The cost of missing these signs? By the time they're obvious, we've lost valuable time for dementia prevention strategies, lifestyle changes, medical checks, and support systems that can slow the progression. So the next time you see a pattern of small changes, don't dismiss them as coincidence. They may be your early invitation to protect memory, and to give the brain a fighting chance. Up next, I want to share a story that shows how noticing one tiny detail changed the entire course of a family's future. It happened in a quiet suburb of Ohio. Linda, a 68-year-old grandmother, had always been the one who organized Sunday dinners. Every dish was perfectly timed, every place setting exactly where it should be. One Sunday, her daughter walked into the kitchen and saw the pasta boiling without any sauce prepared. It was small, almost laughable. But for this family, it was the first time Linda had ever forgotten a step in a recipe she had cooked for over 30 years. At first, they teased her, "Mom, maybe you just need more coffee." But in the weeks that followed, other small changes began to appear. She repeated the same question twice within an hour. She misplaced her reading glasses, not in the living room, but in the freezer. Her daughter remembered reading about early dementia symptoms and how they can appear in the most ordinary moments. Instead of ignoring them, she scheduled a full cognitive assessment. The diagnosis came: early-stage Alzheimer's disease, with a possibility of vascular dementia due to past blood pressure issues. It was a shock, but catching it early meant Linda could start lifestyle changes that supported brain health, a diet rich in vegetables and omega-3s, gentle daily exercise, and social engagement to slow cognitive decline. They also learned how depression in seniors can worsen memory loss, so they built a routine filled with purpose and connection. What could have been years of silent progression turned into a journey of dementia prevention and active living. And here's the part that stays with me, Linda's daughter said, it all started because of one pot of pasta. Next, let's look at the brain science behind why such small details can reveal so much about cognitive health. When we think of dementia or Alzheimer's disease, we often picture severe memory loss, forgetting family members, losing track of the day, or being unable to find the way home. But the truth is, the brain rarely begins with dramatic symptoms. Cognitive decline usually starts with tiny slips, a misplaced object, a repeated question, a recipe step forgotten. Why? Because these small tasks rely on multiple brain regions working together. The hippocampus, which stores short-term memories, and the frontal lobe, which manages planning and attention, must coordinate like dance partners. When early dementia symptoms begin, it's as if one partner starts missing the beat. In conditions like vascular dementia, tiny blood vessels supplying oxygen to these brain areas become damaged from high blood pressure, diabetes, or even silent mini-strokes. The brain doesn't feel pain when this happens, but it shows you in behavior. Research shows that early diagnosis dementia screening gives families the best chance to adapt their lifestyle to prevent further decline. Simple actions, monitoring blood pressure, eating a brain health diet, and managing depression in seniors, can slow progression and reduce dementia risk factors. And remember, these changes are not just medical advice. They're a way to protect the connections, the stories, and the shared laughter that make life worth remembering. Now, let's explore how to spot these signs early, even if your loved one seems perfectly fine on the outside. One of the hardest parts about dementia symptoms is that they often hide in plain sight. Your loved one may still laugh at your jokes, walk around the block, and remember to water the plants, so it's easy to think, there's nothing wrong. But early dementia is like a leak in the roof that only shows during a heavy rain. The damage is happening quietly, and by the time it's obvious, it's much harder to repair. Here's what I tell families in dementia caregiving: look for patterns, not single events. One forgotten appointment. Maybe just a busy day. Forgetting the same instructions 3 times in a week. That's worth noting. Watch how they handle tasks that used to be second nature, paying bills, following a recipe, or finding their way back from a familiar store. These moments test multiple brain functions at once, and subtle cognitive decline can cause hesitations, confusion, or uncharacteristic frustration. If you notice emotional changes, withdrawal from conversations, increased irritability, or signs of depression, don't dismiss them. Dementia and depression often overlap in seniors, and addressing mood changes early can protect brain health. Early diagnosis dementia assessments are not just about confirming a condition, they're about buying time. Time to adjust medication, time to build a dementia prevention lifestyle, and time to make memories that matter. In the next part, I'll share how one small habit in daily life can either speed up memory loss or help slow it down dramatically. Every day, without realizing it, we all choose between 2 paths for our brain. One leads toward protecting memory, the other quietly increases dementia risk factors. For many seniors, it's not a dramatic lifestyle change that makes the difference, it's the tiny, repeated choices. Choosing to sit in front of the TV all afternoon instead of taking a short walk. Skipping lunch because I'm not hungry instead of eating a balanced plate that fuels brain health. Staying silent about a moment of confusion instead of telling a family member. These decisions seem harmless in the moment, but over weeks and months, they shape the brain's ability to resist cognitive decline. Just like the heart needs exercise, the brain needs stimulation, blood flow, and nourishment to keep Alzheimer's disease and vascular dementia at bay. One of the simplest ways to prevent dementia is to create a consistent lifestyle to prevent dementia progression: daily movement, hydration, nutrient-rich foods, and social interaction. Even a 10-minute conversation with a friend can light up neural pathways more than you realize. And here's the part many overlook: stroke and dementia risk are deeply connected. High blood pressure, diabetes, and poor circulation can damage brain tissue over time, making memory loss more likely. So by protecting your heart, you are also protecting your mind. In the next part, I'll share the real-life story of Mr. Allen, a man who thought his daily habits were good enough until one small change helped him remember his granddaughter's name again. Mr. Allen was 74, living in a quiet neighborhood in Ohio. For years, his family brushed off small dementia symptoms, forgetting the day of the week, mixing up names, leaving the kettle on. They called it just aging. But one Sunday, his granddaughter ran into the kitchen, laughing, holding a drawing she made for him. He smiled, but his eyes searched her face like she was a stranger. It was the first time he couldn't remember her name. That moment shook his daughter. She realized this wasn't just memory loss, it could be early dementia, and waiting any longer could make a difference they might never get back. They brought him for an early diagnosis dementia evaluation. The tests showed mild cognitive impairment, still early enough to slow progression with lifestyle changes to prevent dementia from advancing. His doctor recommended a daily plan: short walks twice a day to boost blood flow, brain games to engage memory pathways, and a balanced diet rich in leafy greens and omega-3s for senior brain health. The family also started a gentle dementia caregiving routine, keeping conversations active, labeling items in the house, and encouraging him to share stories from his youth. Within a few weeks, Mr. Allen began to recognize more faces, recall more details, and most importantly, he could say his granddaughter's name again without hesitation. It wasn't a cure, but it was proof that even small, consistent changes can give back moments you thought were gone forever. And that's why, in the next part, we'll talk about the simple daily brain ritual that can work like a safety net for your memory. After seeing Mr. Allen's progress, I began sharing one simple daily habit with all my patients worried about memory loss and dementia prevention. It's called the October 10, 2010 Mind and Amp Motion Routine. 10 minutes of movement, 10 minutes of mindful breathing, 10 minutes of active recall. The movement, like a brisk walk around the block, helps keep blood vessels open, reducing stroke and dementia risk. The mindful breathing lowers stress hormones, which can speed up cognitive decline if left unchecked. And the active recall, remembering yesterday's meals, naming friends from high school, or recalling the events of a favorite trip, keeps neural pathways active, supporting senior brain health every single day. This is not about pushing your limits. It's about building a lifestyle to prevent dementia, making your brain feel watered like a garden instead of drying out from neglect. I've seen patients in their late 70s who thought their memory was slipping for good regain focus, improve recall, and feel more confident starting conversations again just from keeping this routine. The beauty is, you don't need special equipment, you don't need a gym, and you don't even have to leave your home. All you need is commitment and a belief that every day you still have is a chance to strengthen your mind. And before we wrap up, I want to leave you with something even more powerful, a way to turn your home into a memory-friendly space, so your environment becomes your ally, not your enemy. One thing I've learned after years of working with Alzheimer's disease and different types of dementia, is that the brain doesn't heal in isolation, it thrives in a supportive environment. If you or someone you care for is showing early dementia symptoms, your home can either calm the mind or confuse it. Simple changes can make a huge difference. Keep everyday items in the same spot, keys by the door, glasses in a single drawer. Label cabinets with words or pictures to ease decision-making and reduce daily stress. Good lighting helps, too. Dim corners or shadowed hallways can trigger disorientation in people with cognitive decline. A well-lit kitchen, a clear pathway to the bathroom at night, these are more than comfort, they're dementia caregiving essentials. Another overlooked detail, background noise. TV's blaring or overlapping sounds can overwhelm the brain, especially in those with vascular dementia where processing speed is already slowed. Soft music or quiet conversation can make the home feel safer, reducing anxiety and agitation. By designing your home around the brain's needs, you're lowering dementia risk factors, supporting memory retention, and making life easier for both the person and the caregiver. And as we move into the final part of this conversation, I want to share a truth I've seen in every patient journey: the most powerful medicine for the brain isn't found in a bottle, but in the relationships and routines that keep us connected. When we talk about dementia prevention, or slowing Alzheimer's disease, we often focus on diet, exercise, or medical treatment. But here's what decades of brain health research and countless patient stories have taught me: human connection is the most potent therapy we have. A brain without purpose, without regular moments of joy, shrinks faster. Isolation isn't just a feeling, it's a dementia risk factor as real as high blood pressure or stroke history. I've seen seniors with memory loss blossom again when they rejoin a book club, pick up painting, or simply have a weekly coffee date with friends. The hippocampus, the memory hub, responds to stimulation and novelty, even in later stages of cognitive decline. So yes, learn the dementia symptoms, create a safe home, follow lifestyle habits that protect brain health. But don't forget the daily touchpoints that make life worth remembering. Call an old friend. Share a story with your grandchild. Join a community group. Because in the end, we're not just preventing dementia, we're preserving the very moments that make us feel alive. If this message resonates with you, leave a simple comment: I choose to stay connected. Let's build a community where no senior walks this journey alone.